Gen V Episode 5 might have just revealed what Cipher wants with Marie, and the answer is even more screwed up than we ever thought. Welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in Season 2, Episode 5 of Gen V. Guys, I'm loving the mystery at the center of this episode, and I want to thank you for all of your theories in the comments, on our socials, and on our Discord server. Now, a big theory we threw out last week is that the reason Cipher has no compound V in his blood is because this ain't the real Cipher. He's actually being controlled by the real Cipher, who we think is the Bruned Man and the Iron Lung. After all, Cipher means a secret code where characters represent a hidden meaning. So it would make sense if the Cipher we see is actually being controlled by the strongest telepath on Earth, who could be Bruned Man. And there's also a big clue in the first few seconds of this episode. Now, we know this music has some significance because Sister Sage says,
"You have the most cliche taste in music."
But what's cliche about this? What is the hidden meaning here? Well, the music playing is Sonata for Piano and Violin number 21 in E minor, composed by Amadeus Mozart. Now, Mozart composed this piece when his mother was dying, and if the Bruned Man is actually Cipher's father, that could be why he chose this piece. But the piece is also famous for featuring a two-movement structure with a violin and a piano that alternate and support one another. And this could be why Sister Sage says that it's a cliched pick, because he is listening to a piece where instruments support each other. And if Bruned Man is really controlling Hamish Linklater, then the two are supporting one another in the same way. And notice that they also turn and look at her at the exact same moment. Further proof that the Bruned Man is controlling Cipher. And I want to shout out Optimus Provost in our live chat, who had a great theory that Cipher was actually blending smoothies for the Bruned Man, which I think makes total sense after seeing the carefully curated refrigerator. And then we are reintroduced to Sister Sage, who we first met in Season 4 of The Boys. Now, Sage is a super genius. She's the smartest person on Earth, and she joined the Seven specifically to facilitate Homelander's takeover of America, saying,
"All democracies fail. Just gotta nudge them a little."
And we can kind of buy that explanation that she did this because she was bored. I mean, all through the season, we see her lobotomize herself just so she can watch reality TV and hook up with the deep. But her scenes in this episode imply that she actually had a deeper plan, and that maybe she's actually working against Homelander, but I'll get more into theories later in the video. So she brings him a housewarming gift, a gnome that's going to be violated in 1 month's time, and the timetable here means that he is very much at this house and took the position of dean to train Marie, and not necessarily to run the school. He moved in right when she escaped from Elmyra. Sage is also dressed down in normal clothes, and that's important because she showed disdain for the flashy life of Soups, and she did not want to wear a costume. So her showing up in street clothes means that she's here for herself and not for Homelander. I should also mention that she is wearing a shirt from Stroh's Brewery, which is in her hometown of Detroit, Michigan. And then she hooks up with Cipher, and there's like a lot to unpack here. But like I said, in The Boys, she would lobotomize herself to hook up with the Deep, but here she's fully herself. So she's actually really into this guy. And it seems like it's a weird kink at first, like Cipher is doing this in front of his dad, but more likely he's being controlled by the burned guy, and that's why they are doing it in full view. In fact, maybe the reason he likes her to slap him is so the bruised guy can feel something, the same reason he likes to have the flour rubbed under his nose. Now, this idea that Cipher is actually being controlled fits in with the theme of this episode, control. Throughout the episode, we find references to puppets.
Like the puppet that you are.
You're a fucking puppet for them!
And we're going to revisit this theme again and again in different ways throughout the episode. I love that this season has a running theme that dives deep into the core of the Boys universe, and the theme is real versus fake. The superheroes have always projected a fake, heroic image to mask that they're all narcissistic a-holes. And in Gen V, we see how the students are being forced to project that outer image that the world wants to see. In fact, it was creepy how last episode Jordan casually mentioned the school deepfaked their image. And this really works for this show because this is the world that students live in today. Social media expects them to project a false reality. And let's face it, it's a danger we can all relate to. Mainstream media sites have what's called a profit bias. They want to keep you angry and engaged, so you keep clicking and watching more ads. And then there's also the really shady actors who flood the algorithm with fake news, and you just don't know who to trust. And that's why, if you want to cut through the bias and hear real news, I recommend Ground News. They're the sponsor of this video. Ground News is an app and website that gathers related articles from across the world into one place. But they give you the context about the source's political leaning, their reliability, and most importantly, their ownership. This means that you can see through the bias and think critically about the news you consume. For instance, Here's a story about Eric Adams dropping out of the New York City mayor's race. Sources on the right editorialize, making claims that New York is about to be ruled by a communist lunatic, while sources on the left point out that Adams likely dropped out due to pressure from Donald Trump. I can also see how many sources reported on the story, how many of them lean left or right, and who owns those news sources. That way, I know who has an angle in telling this story a certain way. They've also just included this feature that includes podcasts that talk about the news, and as we know, podcasts are playing a larger role in our politics and in our government. But I also want to know the news isn't trying to sway me one way or the other, so they even have a blind spot section that shows me stories that each side is ignoring. For instance, here is a story about the looming government shutdown that has been completely ignored by sources on the right. And for some reason, no left-leaning sources are picking up this story about the former Russian president warning Europe that they can't win a nuclear war with Russia. Using this feature gives me a better rounded view of all the news and not just the news that supports my existing bias. Ground News is an incredible resource, and I've been looking for a service like Ground News for years, so I highly recommend you check them out. If you go to groundnews.com/SC or click this QR code, you will get 40% off their Vantage plan, which includes unlimited access to every feature. Then your subscription will not only help out this channel, but you'll also be supporting an independent platform that's working to make the media landscape more transparent. Now, back to what I was saying. Now, in the aftermath of the fight, one of the reporters tries to bait Marie with a question about trans people.
Email, do you agree trans athletes should be banned from competition?
Which is, of course, a hot button political issue, and that is a good time to remind you guys that this show is very political and very satirical, and we are doing our best to break down the meaning the creators intended without hurting any of your feelings. So please be nice to each other in the comments. Now, in the context of this scene, her question is really just headline baiting. 1, Jordan's not trans. And 2, Jordan never actually used their male form in the fight except at the very start. Now, in the locker room, notice this Homelander poster reading, "Keep up the good work." Normally, we would have seen posters from many soups, but gradually, Homelander's face has become the only image that we're actually seeing fill up the background. And this, of course, is mirroring his takeover of Vought, America, and maybe eventually the world. Now, their conversation here speaks to the episode's theme of control. Jordan says,
"He was switching me,"
which means that Cipher was deciding their gender, defining who they are. Exactly what they admonished their dad for doing last season. And Jordan describes mind control like,
"It was like I was in the backseat of a car."
Which is similar to how Bruce Banner described what it was like when the Hulk was in control of his body.
He had the keys of the car and I was locked in the trunk.
And when Cipher appears, he drives home that theme of control.
Like the puppet that you are.
And incidentally, last episode we pointed out that Marie controlled Jordan like she controlled the bags of blood during her training. Now notice that when Cipher shows up, Jordan changes back to their male form as a defensive measure. So in our first breakdown this season, we talked about how Jordan would posture as male when they wanted to prove a point or to become a commanding presence. However, their male body is also the tanky defensive one. So after what Cipher just did to them, a quick change to the male form could be seen as like a turtle crawling back into their shell. And look how just closed off Jordan is here. They can't even look at Cipher. But Cipher isn't there to be cruel to Jordan. That's just a side bonus for him. He's there to continue Marie's training.
Also, exhilarating? Yeah.
But his next line might actually be a hint at what he really wants. He says he sent Kate to prison because
Someone has to be punished, otherwise I start looking real weak.
And he makes a point then to call Jordan weak. Now, we've pointed out that he seems like a combination of Xavier and Magneto.
Yeah, but unlike Onslaught, he's actually an interesting character.
Right, well, he has Xavier's mind control abilities and Magneto's homo superiority complex. He could also be like Apocalypse and believes that only the strong will survive. This could also explain why he's so disdainful of Jordan's failure.
I think so, because you just showed me and the whole damn world how weak you really are.
And then he explains why he did this to Marie.
Yes, the pressure pushed you farther than you could have ever gone.
To pressure her to level up. So this is another running theme of this episode. Cipher continues to ramp up pressure on the students to level up their abilities, which was foreshadowed by the song Pressure being featured in episode 1. So then Kate is sent to Elmyra, the prison where she sent her friends, and by the way, who knows how many other soups in the boys' finale. They put a shock collar on her neck that activates when she uses her powers, and this is likely a reference to the power dampening collars on Genosha in the X-Men comics, which in turn were inspired by slave collars worn by enslaved Africans. The prisoner she walks by might also be references to the X-Men. Blue Girl looks like Nightcrawler, Mystique, or Nightcrawler's alternate Earth daughter, Nocturne, and Horned Girl reminds us of Magic when she's in her demon child form. Meanwhile, Sam takes Jordan's advice from episode 3.
Why don't you go?
Now this is the second family reunion this season. Remember, Marie returned to meet up with her mom's best friend who was scared of her powers.
We were afraid
afraid of you.
Building on that, we're meant to see Sam's mother's passing glances as fear. And after Sam assaults his dad, she gives a familiar cry.
Stay away.
You should go.
Now all of this builds very nicely to the final scene that we're going to talk about later. Now as soon as Sam returns home, he regresses back into his childhood. He's watching Avenue V, the comfort show that he used to watch with his brother Luke, and he's eating Choctopus Puffs featuring the Deep, which super messed up that they keep showing us the octopus and reminding us of what he did to poor Ambrosius in season 4. Now in the fridge, we see cans of Big Game Cola, and Big Game was a soup that was a member of the Teenage Kicks, and he appeared all the way back in season 1 of The Boys. Now because Sam is regressing into his childhood, he also rejects the call to adventure and says he won't help Emma.
That's good, buddy. You just go work on yourself.
Yeah, that's actually a healthy choice for him right now. And guess what, Doug?
Macy Gray is coming to town?
No, but we are. Guys, our live show is just 9 days away during New York Comic Con. So this is the encore show of our nationwide tour. And I want to thank you guys so much for showing up and buying tickets to support us. I cannot wait to show you this show. We have one-time exclusive breakdowns of stuff that I would never talk about on the channel. We have stand-up, sketch comedy, special guests, but most importantly, it's just a chance to meet you guys face-to-face and geek out together. The ticket link is below. I can't wait to see you there. October 10th, City Winery. Now, when they decide to break Kate out, notice the lockdown procedures on the wall next to Emma. Now, following the calamity of last season, this must be standard practice in all dorms, which unfortunately mirrors the real-life gun violence that strikes our schools so often the teachers have similar warning signs if there's ever a live shooter. And notice in her room she has a poster for Big Crazy Love 2. Now, this is a romantic comedy vehicle starring Termite, who also, like Emma, has shrinking powers, so he would have been an early soup favorite of Emma's. Now, I mentioned this episode is about control. We see that in Cipher controlling Jordan, but also how later they're placed in a system of control, the prison. But it's also important that they focus on how the kids are controlled by their own psychosis. Marie admits to self-harm.
I thought about cutting myself every fucking day.
And later, Emma admits to her eating disorder.
Everybody kept saying I needed help, but I had a disorder, and I kept saying I was fine.
And Sam even finds out that his mental disorder is due to genetics.
It's one of our ancestors' faults, but it's not yours.
He is essentially being controlled by his DNA. And I love this shot composition when Sam is talking to Emma. At first, we see him in the mirror, a way to show his bipolar disorder, or at least his indecisiveness. But as soon as he makes up his mind, the camera pushes in, and we no longer see the reflection. He is no longer of two minds about the situation. And when they get ready for the prison break, Greg offers a hand.
Let me come with it. I can help.
And he just made it to the top of my Cipher meat puppet list. This super nice, handsome guy could also be a spy. Now, Cipher could be a secret good guy who's plotting to take down Homelander, but I think he is also a soup supremacist. When his assistant brings him a shake, he doesn't even bother looking at her.
Thank you, Nagin. Door closed, please.
And later, he talks about her like she's a slave.
Hey, do you want an assistant? They're human, but they bring you shit all the time. It's like their job.
And he reveals that he was already ahead of Anderson and his snooping.
I mean, you've been asking around about me, people at Vought, down in the archives. What have you found out?
Like, Cipher is several steps ahead of everybody, just like Sister Sage was in The Boys Season 4. But I don't think he's as smart as Sage. He's just being controlled by an extremely powerful telepath who can read people's minds. And then he really cuts Anderson to the bone. Remember, Jordan told everybody that Andre died trying to escape.
He died in that prison. His powers killed him.
And I'm sure that Andre thought that's what he was doing, but then Cipher tells us the truth.
Your boy's death was the result of an experiment.
Everything Cipher did was part of a system of control. Even letting the kids think they were escaping was just a way to test their powers, foreshadowing the end of this episode. And again, he makes a point to call someone else weak.
I tried to push him to his full potential, and unfortunately, his little body wouldn't allow it.
If he is being controlled by Bruned Man, then his disdain for the weak could be a form of self-loathing. And if that Bruned Man is Thomas Godolkin, this could also be reinforced by his Nazi beliefs we discovered a few episodes ago. Now, when he stabs himself with the knife, there's no pain response, which again probably means that this is not his real body and he's being controlled by someone else.
I'm not a puppet. I'm a real boy.
There's also some brutal symbolism here, that he stabs Anderson's steak with a knife that is soaked in his blood. He's basically saying to Anderson, I am everywhere. I am in your mind, and I'm even in the food you eat. And then he says,
I've got a Zoom with Dana White,
who is the CEO of UFC, who probably orchestrated the fight last episode. So Sam then has a heart-to-heart with his dad, where we learn the extent of Vought's control.
We called, emailed, we drove all the way to the campus. They said,
You didn't want to see us.
But it's also likely that Kate was mind controlling his parents at some point and wiping away their memories. Like his dad seems surprised that there are so few items that belong to Sam.
Is this all you have? Just my little baby shit?
Is that all that's in there?
And this is probably because Kate made them forget big chunks of their son's life, just like she made Luke forget Sam in season 1. Now, at the very least, though, we see that his memories of his son appear to be fragmented. His dad is even confused about the timelines of when things occurred, asking if he ever met Queen Maeve when she's been presumed dead for several years. He also says that they saw him on the news, likely referring to this report at the end of season 1.
Many more, undoubtedly, would have been killed had it not been for the Guardians of Godolkin. Excuse me, the new Guardians of Godolkin.
Now, this conversation about Vought's control over their lives made Sam flip out on his mom. So he lashes out, convinced that she is another part of Vought's system of control, which then transitions to a complete system of control, Elmyra Prison. So it's revealed right away that it's a trap! And I wonder if Marie was actually able to escape, or if that was just another system of control. In their cells, Emma is imprisoned in a circular glass cage to make sure she can't shrink or escape through a tiny crack or hide in a corner. And she also calls Kate
Like weird Barbie.
which of course is a reference to this.
Somehow Palpatine.
No! None of that! Shame on you!
Sorry, I meant this.
I'm Weird Barbie, I am in the splits, I have a funky haircut, and I smell like basement.
So Sage shows up and reveals that she is now Vought's CEO, replacing Ashley Barrett.
Ashley Barrett certainly can't. Not in her state.
But then she became afraid for her life in season 4, and the season ends with her taking Compound V. But we didn't actually get to see her mutation, but apparently she's mad screwed up. I'm looking forward to seeing what her powers are. But most importantly, it's revealed that all of this is happening without Homelander say so.
If I succeed with Marie, Homelander's gonna have feelings about how powerful she really is.
Now, what's interesting here is that Sage and Cipher seem to have the same goal. Throughout this episode, we've seen Cipher admonish the weak but praise the strong, just like the Nazi beliefs that Godolkin held.
Oh boy. Nazis.
But Sage seems to also share those beliefs. In season 4, she told Victoria Newman that when she was a kid, she discovered a cure for cancer, but the doctors didn't believe her and dismissed her out of hand. So now she believes in that same kind of cull the herd mentality to purge the weak.
Humans are animals. And the lines at Vaultland are too long as it is.
So the real question is, what do these two want? Let's assume that Marie could become powerful enough to kill Homelander. Well, Cipher does tell her,
I don't want you to be a weapon.
But there's also a big clue in the same scene when Jordan tells him,
But you're in pain all the time.
And again, I think they're talking about the man behind the curtain, the man in the iron lung, the Arthur D.B. Sellers of the boys' universe. And just to show Marie the stakes here, Cipher shows her the door that Andre tried to break open. Now, she's never seen this because remember, Andre was inspired by her escape attempt, so when he did this to the door, she was long gone. Now, at first, I thought Cipher was telling her, hey, try to escape and more of your friends will die. But then, later on in the episode, I realized he was actually trying to inspire her. He wanted her to try to escape to push her powers even further. And this entire storyline dovetails nicely with Sam's as he learns that his parents actually gave him V to help him. And this is like Marie's parents who went to Vought looking for a medical miracle so they could conceive. So in this episode, Sam, Marie, and Emma all confront their mental disorders and learn that they have to overcome their self-imposed roadblocks. In a way, their actions have been controlled by their own brains. And I'm also thinking that Sage helps Cipher plan a lot of what happens in this episode. Like there's a lot of times when we think we can see what Cipher is doing. For instance, we think he shows Marie her sister as a way to control her and hold her sister hostage, when in reality, they allowed the escape to happen. The escape created pressure and a ticking clock, and it made Marie's abilities evolve under pressure. But instead of holding Annabeth hostage, her real purpose was to die, which would then inspire Marie to use her full abilities and heal her. She really is the chosen one. She can even raise the dead. And this is where we get to what I think they really want with her. I think they see Marie as a true key to immortality. She can heal the guy in the iron lung. She can heal his pain. And I also think this guy is probably Thomas Godolkin. And afterwards, she can essentially make Sister Sage and Cipher immortal. Remember, Homelander is gradually aging. He was finding gray hairs and keeping them in a jar. So after Homelander dies of old age, Cipher and Sage will still be alive, living on for thousands of years. And if Marie could also kill Homelander at the right time, that works out great for their plans to control the world for themselves. And all of this makes so much sense. Back in season 4 of The Boys, I never really understood why Sister Sage would put Homelander Homelander in charge of the world. She passed it off like she was bored and wanted to prove that she could tear down society. But now, you can really see the pieces come together. She hates the world that humans built, and she believes that she can make a better one. But she is limited by her own body, which will age and decay. So, if they can harness Marie's powers, they can truly rule the world as gods. And this goal to achieve godhood would have always been the underlying goal of Godolphin University. After all, it is called God U. Big shout out to Ethan Ink, who co-wrote this video. You can find his links down below, and also let us know what you thought of the episode down in the comments, on our socials, on our free to join Discord server, and don't forget to buy tickets to our live show. They are going fast and it's going to be a lot of fun. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.